Is Algorand about to go to $10? I think that's a little much, but today we're going to look at a price reaction from Cheeky Crypto. I've been really interested in doing these Algorand price prediction videos where I look at other predictions and talk about what I think. Now, I've told you guys before, I think Algorand probably go to like $2, $3. I had a discussion with AJ Writes Crypto about this recently, so we'll see that video on his channel where we talk about a number of things in Algorand, including my price prediction. But today I was asked to look at this one from a couple different people by Cheeky Crypto. I am not familiar with him. And well, let's just take a look at his channel here. So this is his channel. We're going to back up just a second. I think this is really interesting. He's got a very interesting model here because he has 162,000 subscribers. So that's a pretty big channel. But if you look at his views, he's not getting a ton of, he's getting like probably views around my size, you know, maybe a little bigger. I don't typically get, I did some videos that get to 3,000 to 4,000, but a lot of mine are around the 1,000 range. So that's interesting. I just think that's interesting. I always wonder what's going on when you have a channel like that, but it looks like a high volume channel. So I haven't seen anything from this yet. Anyway, this was actually 3 weeks ago. I thought this was actually newer, but it looks like the newest one. So a lot of these, I think a lot of these are just, you know, this is what crypto Twitter is really known for. It's like having all these videos where you just talk about price predictions. I try not to do too many of them, but they do bring you an audience. So I can understand why it's important to do that. 10,000%. Well, let's just see what he has to say.
Algorand's Algo token is in a very interesting position. I'm going to be taking a look today at the kind of daily and weekly timeframes, plotting out some macro scenarios for the price action. This is going to be quite a phenomenal video because I think there's some insights here that people maybe
he just say his own video is going to be phenomenal. So I haven't watched this. I haven't watched this at all. I haven't watched any of this guy's content. I don't know what it's about. This seems like a weird way to, like, I've never referred to any of my own videos as phenomenal, but okay.
Are not paying attention to, because Algorand's had a very volatile time over the last few years, and there's some interesting things that we can look at and potentially forecast for Algo. So as I get into today's video, smash that like button if you're new, subscribe.
Also, I'm pretty sure this is a green screen, and I just, why do people do stuff like this? Maybe it's not, maybe it's real, but I don't see anything moving in it.
And let's jump right down into it. We're going to kick things off on this daily time frame. Now, this is Algorand paired up with USDT, one-day Binance chart. And, well, we can see some pretty phenomenal things. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find this on the Bitstamp side of things, because Bitstamp typically has more data. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what was available on Bitstamp. We have 2021, so we don't. That's a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping there'll be more data, but there isn't. So we'll go back to the USDT pairing. So Algorand USDT.
By the way, as I've told you guys many times, I think technical analysis just isn't really that useful, and I think thinking in terms of macro cycles is far more important. And just past price action usually will be through Bayesian logic, will usually be a pretty good indicator of how it will perform. I didn't really push back when AJ talked about market cap math, but I'm generally not very convinced by market cap math. Just because a valuation sounds reasonable doesn't, yeah, but like, so what? It's like, so what? Just because it sounds reasonable doesn't mean it's actually going to occur. Like, there's a lot of things that sound reasonable. It doesn't mean they're going to happen. But anyway.
One-day Binance chart. And one of the things that's quite interesting that stands out to me is the structures that we have seen over the years. A lot of people kind of speculate at the potential based on some of the fundamental side, but they don't take into consideration the participants. And that's kind of where Elliott wave theory sits in. It's how you kind of take a look at the market, the price action. And when I look at a chart like this, what I'm really looking at is the behavior of people buying and selling. And Algorand has had a very aggressive selling environment. That's probably the best way of articulating it. It's been very aggressive on the selling side. Okay, and this kind of happened as we kind of peaked out up here in 2021, right? If I go ahead and
I don't think he's wrong about that, actually. I think a lot of people, you got to remember, like, right now, people who are buying in at like the 8 to 10 cents level, like, they're still seeing like a little bit of profit. I think it's probably premature to be taking any profits on Algorand unless you only had bought in the 8 cents level. But I think what also happens is a lot of people are just using the chain, and the chain being used means there's going to be a lot of buying and selling. And volumes for Algorand have been pretty halfway decent. The numbers of users have been growing. The actual use cases have been growing. USDC on Algorand minting has been growing and outpacing some of the other coins, as we covered. Not as many as like it was originally thought, but it's still working its way up that chart. That's very bullish for Algorand, I think. But I have to say, just from it's a lack of ability to really pump much, and the fact that it's had a new all-time low this bear cycle than it did the last time, that's always a little concerning. Usually you want that floor to be a little higher than the previous cycle. So yeah, we'll see.
And take a look at snapping this price on here. If we take this down to our current bear market low point, which is quite aggressively low for Algorand, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, you can see that this is a 97.26% drop for Algorand, right? It's very, very, very aggressive. Now, that in itself is a very interesting thing because this move down to this low of 8.2 cents was lower than the crash that we had during the pandemic. That crash in the pandemic only took Algorand down to 9.58 cents. That means that actually everything that we have seen for Algorand in this particular chart.
And by the way, I think that it matters too that even though it's lower than that little flash crash, the fact is that was a really brief moment in time. You can look at the general consolidation, it was actually closer to like 12, 13 cents. So to me, for it to get down below 10 cents and kind of stay there a while, that matters a lot to me.
Even in that bullish market that we had in 2021 was just corrective. And what I mean by that is it's in its behavior is a WXY pattern. Now, why is that important? That's really important for a couple of reasons, because that means that we're resetting ourselves for the next bull market. And in that next bull market, we are not going to be limited by the history of Algorand. And that's quite an important thing, because if I was to take a look at this and say, okay, well, we've had kind of a mediocre push to the upside, and one of the things that we would have been hoping for here was to kind of say maybe we're in a bullish case, and this was just an A wave to the upside, this was a B wave to the downside, and we're going to rally up into new all-time highs. Right? We've looked at this scenario in the past, but there is, of course, this move to the downside, breaking lower than the previous low, and that means that we're in a corrective move to the downside. So that means we've got a big reset here on our hands, ready for the next surge to the upside. And well, how high can that go? Well, it's kind of almost limited because we don't have any real history to kind of predict out where that goes. So depending on the developments, depending on the kind of fundamental side, Algorand could be very well positioned to do some phenomenal things. And we've seen this time and time again. A lot of people kind of see that some of these projects are completely dead and they're done and then no one's going to go near them again. And then all of a sudden, you know, they erupt. I mean, there's some clear examples of Aurora on Near Protocol, for example, which completely looked like a ski slope. In fact, let me go ahead and show you for the purpose of today's video. It looked like this, okay? Phenomenal slide to the downside, right? All of this move in 2022, a significant slippage. If we actually take a look at that price movement, we were 96.8% down. And then all of a sudden it woke up. And what did it do? It did a phenomenal surge, taking itself from down here at 0.47 cents up to this 73.5 cents.
I'm sorry, is that supposed to be convincing? It didn't even reach its previous high. Let's see, and this has been in 2022. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the chart that he's got here. Yeah, I don't find that terribly convincing. I would want to see a much bigger jump than that.
A 1,463% surge to the upside. So when it comes to Algorand, right, and the potential here for Algorand, we have to kind of consider that it could do something phenomenal and completely unexpected because we don't have any history really to kind of say it's going to be repeating itself, it's going to be doing X, Y, and Z based on WXY. Ultimately here, we have a clean slate for Algorand, and that is very exciting.
I don't understand why he says that. We have had a history, and the history wasn't great. You know, nobody ever talks about the botched launch from when it first started. It launched at like $3 and immediately crashed. And it has never recovered. It launched like $3 and some cents. It's never hit that since. So I think that's I don't know, what does he mean when he says there's no history? Of course there's a history, and it's not a great one, and that's why I think $2 to $3 is a pretty reasonable price prediction. I don't find this argument convincing at all that this thing is going to pop off just because I don't know. I can't really even follow the argument. Well, what does he mean by the slate has been wiped clean? It hasn't. We have history, and we can look at the history. It's at a new all-time low. Again, you know, and by the way, I love Algorand. I love using it. I think it's a great, phenomenal blockchain to actually build apps on and to use dApps in crypto and do DeFi, NFTs. I think it's great for that. I just don't think it's great for price action. And these videos to me are kind of silly.
Exciting thing to see. So have we got anything here that kind of says we're in a pretty decent position? Well, this particular structure is interesting to me for a couple of reasons. This looks like we could potentially see a contracting diagonal right at the very beginning. Okay, it's a bit of a long shot, but it's something that is still technically possible, so it's worth keeping an eye on it. And that sits right inside here. If I go ahead and just kind of loosely draw that on because it's snapping, it is a bit of a problem right now. As you can see that this kind of contracts in. This could be a contracting diagonal, basically meaning that this is a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, 4, and 5. And that is a reversal pattern from our lows down here at 8.2 cents. Now, if this is the case and we see that explosive move like we saw with maybe something like Aurora, we could potentially see that this market could, dramatically increase on its previous cycles, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at this retracement and does it fall in line? And the answer is yes. Typically, you see a wave 2 come down in between 50 and 88.2%. That is that range right there. And you can see that we've wicked down right into that low side of this range. So to me, this looks like we are on the cusp of a potential break to the upside. That move to the upside I can be a little bit clever on and try to forecast out, but there isn't really a lot of data to kind of go on because we're completely starting again essentially. But if we take a look at the existing low down here and put our Fibonacci on it, well, we could see that there is the potential here for 89.39 to get us to a 1.618. That means this is a wave 1, this is a wave 2, this becomes a wave 3, small bounce up into 5, and we're straightway back up to the 2021 highs. But the problem here, I say problem, well, the exciting part here is that if we do this, there would be a 3-wave correction and an additional 5-wave break to the upside, where a new all-time high could potentially be on the horizon for Algorand. And that could be very, very phenomenal. Okay, so there's a bit of a path here that we could potentially see. Now, obviously, this is just speculation because we haven't got to that point where we have that kind of data available.
Yeah, total speculation. Sometimes I don't even know what to say about this stuff anymore. It just seems so ridiculous. Like, hey, it's going to do this, this, and this, and this. Oh, well, it's just speculation. Of course, it's speculation. Like, the fact is, I think here's the thing. I think we can cut this short. These price prediction videos, like, the reason I cover them is I like to point out some of the stuff that sounds really, really smart because they're using a lot of technical terms. They have these terms and they draw lines on a chart, and so they make themselves look really smart. Most of this stuff is nonsense and you should ignore it. And what you should do, instead of worrying about price predictions, have a plan for when it goes up. Have a sense of, if it gets to this level, I'm going to take this amount of profit and I'm going to take some money off the table and make sure I'm locking in my profit. That's really important. The most important thing is to follow the cycles. They tend to, we've seen some divergence from Algorand recently. It's actually diverging better, doing better than some of the main coins, which is a surprise. We haven't seen that in a while. That's very bullish, but have a plan. Have a plan for when the price goes up. Great, I'm in the profit. I'm up 4 or 5x. All right, let's take some off the table. Let's start building the moon bag. People laugh when I say moon bag, but moon bag just means you've completely de-risked. You have all your initial investment taken off the table and everything left is profit. That's really important. That's a great thing. If you're in crypto, you need to do that. That's how you win in this game, okay? How you lose is you just ride it out, you hang on, and you don't ever sell, you don't ever take profits, and you end up back in the bottom. With Bitcoin, I think you can do that. That's a legit strategy. That's a legit long-term strategy that I'm like, hey, in however many years, someday you see new higher lows basically for Bitcoin. So you're always improving, even if you've lost in the short term, if that makes sense. But we didn't see that for Algorand. With Algorand, we've had problems with price action. Like we said, we set new lows in the bear. So if Algorand's over $1 or $2, you for sure should be taking some profit off the table. Make sure you lock in that profit. Now, me personally, I'm actually using Algorand for DeFi, so I'm making money every day from holding in DeFi. And if price goes up, I just make more money. At some point, I want to kind of lock things into US dollar coin. But for right now, yeah, I'm just happy to get those gains every day. So something to keep in mind. I have videos on that too, by the way, if you want to watch that. Otherwise, yeah, I think we can close the door on this one. It seems a little, I just think these price prediction videos seem a little silly, but that's just me. Make sure you have a plan. When you're in the bear market, that's when you buy. When everyone's going, oh, crypto's dead, that crypto stuff is over, that's usually your signal that you probably should be buying in, because prices are pretty much not going to get much lower. And by the way, you're never going to time these perfectly. The macro cycles are big, so they're relatively easy to see, but you do have to be mindful of this. So anyway, I'm Frugal VC. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be in Colorado next week. Might post a meetup, so watch the community tab. If I can, I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have. My video with AJ should be coming out pretty soon. He said I could clip that, so I'm probably going to put it on my channel too eventually. I'll probably do that next week. And I am going to be hopefully visiting Dora's Tacos, which is a taco shop, home of the taco coin, and a place where you can actually use Algorand to pay for tacos. So I hope to get that video out next week as well. But otherwise, stay tuned. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I'm Frugal VC. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the future.